Hey everyone, welcome to today's lore video. Today I wanted to go over the recent Veil Containment lore that just released, going over the fate of Maya Sundaresh and as well as continuing the story of Chioma Esi. And I wanted to make a video on it because it actually has like a nice interesting twist. One that, not necessarily that I didn't expect, but one that kind of adds an additional layer to my previous video that talked about Maya Sundaresh and her possibility of being a either villain or a focal point of the Destiny 2 franchise once the Final Shape saga is over. So I kind of wanted to then put the spotlight now on Chioma Esi, because if you've seen the recent lore reveal, you'll know why. If not, of course, spoiler warning, if you want to go check it out yourself, go ahead and pop into Veil Containment, and then from there, come back to the video, and I'm going to go ahead and play the Veil Containment so that way you can see what the most recent reveal was.
Chioma Esi, personal log, incidental. Maya's dead. I found her in the conductor's chair, alone. Nobody knows what she was doing. Her copy, that thing, Lakshmi, is still developmentally incomplete. It doesn't understand what happened to Maya. I had it quarantined until we do something.
There's no dates on any of these files. There's no telling how much time is set between them.
Time enough for loss. How many are left?
3 more.
Then let us hope there are yet more answers to uncover.
So there you have it. Up until now, we had really no idea what happened to this Maya Sundaresh, from the point of her being at the Veil and doing the conductor chair, copying her imprint. In my prior video, I was trying to spectate if she was going to do something sinister to Chioma based on the way that she was being kind of warped and manipulated by the darkness. In this case, it seems like she has vacated her body using the Veil and has either transformed fully into something else. She could be hiding in Lakshmi, like we talked about, and just pretending like she's not there. And then, of course, Lakshmi could then be doing something to Chioma. So that's still a possibility that something bad's happening with Chioma or coming to Chioma. But the focus now for me is on Chioma Esi, because she is now trying to contemplate what she's going to do with Lakshmi, and she's kind of the last little bit of connection to Maya Sundaresh. She may also take Maya's body and hook it back up to Lakshmi in hopes of kind of bridging the gap and fully imprinting Lakshmi with Maya Sundaresh 100%, not just a partial print or whatever's left in there. And the more interesting possibility that I was thinking of is maybe what if Chioma Esi connects herself to Lakshmi as well and imprints herself into Lakshmi as well, and the personality that we've been interacting with may not necessarily have been fully Maya Sundaresh, but this combination between Chioma and Maya Sundaresh, or maybe alternating between Chioma and Maya Sundaresh at times, depending on Lakshmi's mood or the way that the exo mind works. So it could be that Chioma also finds a way to finish Lakshmi's programming so that Lakshmi is then the Lakshmi that we come to know from the future war cult, which was carrying on Maya's goal of trying to use the machine to divine the future and to make steps and take steps to prevent a terrible outcome that she sees, and also then manipulate events to then give the outcome that she wants. So Chioma is a big deal now to me. Instead of just being the side character, now that Maya Sundaresh is gone and dead, Chioma has this change, and she's getting more and more exhausted. And the Lakshmi that we knew had kind of a very sinister, underlying, very jaded attitude toward the end of the season of the Splicer, and that could also be from Chioma's scenario now, because Chioma's just tired of dealing with all the horrors, running, dealing with watching her loved one disintegrate into a shell of herself or change into somebody else. She even mentions in a prior entry that the woman that she knew was dead. So she's definitely jaded, and she's also herself been seeing effects from being close to the Darkness Relic. So who knows what's going to happen next. Even Bungie came out themselves and said in a recent lore reveal in an article that they also had to kind of acknowledge that people were piecing together the lore appropriately so that they realized that there were some parallels between the events of the Witness and the events of Maya and how she is interacting with and creating this chorus with the Veil itself. And then, of course, the idea of what the Veil Network truly is. And I'll go over that in another video, but just, briefly, it's been given a personality or been given an idea of being very similar to a Vex network. This consciousness, a collection of consciousness that reaches across space and time, but it's organic. So it's similar and tied to the Mycelial network from the egregore that we've seen throughout the prior seasons. So it's kind of lining up itself with a lot of different similarities, and I will have another video of that going over how kind of like the Nine operates similarly, and the egregore network, and then of course now Maya and this situation. So I'd like to cover that in a separate video. But going back to what Bungie is doing, they could be pulling a fast one in general too, and they could be trying to imply that Maya, which I believe is Lakshmi, and Maya's imprint is Lakshmi, but there could be a twist with Chioma that we don't see, where again, like I said, Chioma is either also in there or switches out. That's something that I look forward to seeing, and I hope Bungie goes that route because it gives Chioma this nice little additional story, since they're like really tied together, Chioma and Maya, in the lore from prior seasons. I'm going to go over a lore entry called Irrealis from the Shadowkeep that was talking about how the research teams differed from each other a little bit, and there's a couple of different lore entries, but this one is the one where they get ready to step out of the Vex network and become corporeal, which kind of ties into my prior theory that the Maya Sundaresh and Chioma Esi of the Vex networks will eventually come into conflict with the real Maya Sundaresh and the real Chioma Esi if Chioma survives, or whatever's left of those two in our world, or even maybe some of them may decide to pick up where they left off, and now we've got two conflicts between one team and another team. And there's a team specifically, 227.72, that is singled out in the lore entry, and so they're definitely more important than the other ones for them given to be a designation and to be tied to this idea of stepping out of the Vex network along with Praedyth, and they survive beyond that. And so then Praedyth's story is still obviously open and open-ended, so where we can still use Praedyth in a future season and kind of him be a guide for that scenario where we have these wars between the Vex network team that stepped out into reality and the original Maya and Chioma Esi. And so I'm going to go and read that lore entry really quickly so you kind of know what I'm talking about, and then I'll go into more detail with that. From the book Aspect from Shadowkeep, entry Irrealis. The garden wakes, and the undying mind wakes with it. It rises from the barrow that's grown up around it, shedding vines and hanging moss like bed sheets. Circuits flood with power, pass the access along to the next line, flex massive limbs in boot sequences. Goblins write in more circuits and weld them to the mind, building it up to take advantage of power. Not an occasional pulse, but a steady hum. Their faith has been rewarded. In the vault, 183 sets of simulated Golden Age scientists flex their own limbs, ready to make a break for it. Praedyth, kneeling at his radio, shakes out his hands. They're stiff. He's stiff. Queasy, with exertion and worry, and a stack of lifetimes in his cell, but ready. How big is a transistor compared to a pin? Do you know? He can't tell which Maya is speaking. There's 165 of her spread between the teams. Are you calling me an angel? This is Chioma, amused. Praedyth knows which team it is now. It's 227.72's Chioma. She sounds harsher than the others, and he doesn't know why. Maya, again. Would you like to dance? Dwayne McNead snorts in 100-part harmony, and 8 shims grin and elbow him in the metaphorical ribs. It's a slim chance, but a chance is all they need. The garden's massive doors hum. An echo of the songs of the goblins sing as they tend the flowers. The first Minotaur readies itself to step through, shield coming to wake around it. Everything that has happened is from a certain point of view always happening. Everything that will happen is happening. If you know how to slice the ribbon of chronology thin enough, you can step through to the necessary moment, if you know how to tear it. 160 Mayas reach for the Chiomas by their side. 158 Chiomas reach back. One Praedyth, waiting for the conductor's baton to drop. Uncountable Vex in the garden, waiting for the same event, a synchrony none of them notice. Somewhere, a veil is always lifting. Somewhere, Kabir is always dooming himself. somewhere a door is always opening. Somewhere they are always stepping through. And so you'll see from the lore that Lakshmi could be, like I said, that combination of Maya and Chioma, or it could just be Chioma herself being the major personality imprinted in Lakshmi. Again, though I still think it's Maya, but that would be an interesting twist if Bungie decided to go there and say it's actually been Chioma Esi's personality this whole time, and she's been very jaded and angry, and she was obviously there before the collapse, so she could also have that forbidden knowledge or hidden knowledge of what happened beforehand that Lakshmi was relaying to the Elixni that she was confronting for being a prior captain and calling him out for his past deeds that he's trying to hide from. And you'll see here that two of the teams, Chioma and Maya's, they don't touch each other. Maya reaches out, and then only 158 Chiomas reach back of 160 teams, so two Chiomas are not happy. And so that shows that in a simulated reality of the Vex, there's going to be a minor difference in the interactions that these two have, Maya and Chioma, to the point where Chioma is not 100% comfortable with Maya, just like she isn't now with the way that she looks at Maya, and she's despondent in what Maya's turned into. And so they've already the Vex network has already simulated this rift, and these two teams that have this rift between them where Maya doesn't even want to, or should I say Chioma doesn't even want to reach back and touch Maya, even in that very important moment where they're getting ready to step out of the Vex network and try to see who lives and who makes it, that there is a possibility that Chioma Esi's personality can get twisted like that in this reality, and she could be a very angry Lakshmi as well, if that's a possibility. So that's one thing that I wanted to touch on to kind of continue this idea behind the possibility of these warring Maya Chiomas and then another Maya Chioma that may currently exist. And it's interesting how they wrapped up Maya Sundaresh's story for now, showing that she fully integrated herself into the Veil. And this entry came right behind a success. So they had just essentially created the Proto Cloud arc because Maya Sundaresh was able to connect scientists into the Veil. She did so in a way and in a time in which a generation had already passed, so it had been quite a long time. So Maya wasn't in a situation where she was in danger herself, and she wouldn't have killed herself accidentally by connecting to the Veil because she had already prepared for this moment. So there was a significant reason why Maya decided to leave her body. I don't know if she was getting old age to the point where her humanity, even though it was boosted by the Golden Age technology, was coming to an end, and she was saying, I need more time, and based on this, I need to be integrated into the Veil or into this proto-cloud arc. And it's interesting to see if Chioma will discover that Maya's really not dead, that Maya's mind and her imprint still exist either within Lakshmi fully and it's hiding, or it's in the Veil somewhere, since it's a organic network like a Vex network. As you've seen, Maya and Chioma have existed in the Vex network, and they have thrived to the point where they're actually getting ready to bend the Vex network to their will to step out into reality. There's very possible happenstance that Chioma follows Maya into this network, which is the Veil, into this organic network, and they have a very similar reaction where they work together as a team inside this new network, or they conflict with each other inside this new network, and they're traveling the universe in this consciousness that is created of the Veil, gathering data from prior to the Traveler and the Veil's creation. Which was brought up recently in a point where I was kind of looking at one of Myelin Games' last videos talking about the Unveiling lore and how he still thinks that the Winnower and the Gardener are not exactly how we laid it out, as a lot of people laid it out for him in his chat, and also people kind of understanding that the Winnower is the Witness Society that is now the Witness, and the Gardener is the Traveler, if you're going to look at it that way, based on the Unveiling lore, and that the real developers and the lore team has gone and even addressed that the Unveiling lore isn't 100% reliable, that it was obviously written by the Witness Society, and you can't really take it as gospel, just like the Bible is, again, written by people who were not either there in the events or not picking up that information from an actual prophet that was there at the events of the Bible. So it's just secondhand knowledge. And I always recommended to look at it like the phone game where somebody told somebody something that told somebody something, and then they're trying to write it in a book in a way in which it has meaning. And so then you change the story to your benefit, and what's being written is not really what the original happenstance was, but some kind of romanticized version that has a kind of a interesting point, a plot point, some type of a story or a lesson to be told, so that the reader doesn't just get bored and walk away, but takes something profound from it. And so the Unveiling lore book, to me, is like that. And I'm going to make that second video kind of talking about how the Unveiling lore book, if Myelin is going to hold on to the idea that the winnower is not the Witness Society, then that may just in fact invalidate the idea that the Traveler is the gardener. And in the future seasons, we may get a new perspective by getting an origin story to the Veil and the Traveler, showing how they were created. And if something created them, for example, then obviously there is still a set of beings above, or a being above, these two machines, essentially, one being a physical network of knowledge and understanding of the universe and that energy, and then the other one being a physical manifestation of creation that can travel the universe at light speed or even faster and go around creating these civilizations as it goes, and kind of growing life in a rapid pace and increasing the livelihood around its physical being, and this technology that people have described as well beyond their time every time they interact with it, and still have trouble fully understanding it because of how far ahead this technology is. So that is the next video coming up, talking about how if the winnower is in fact not the Witness Society, then there is something above the Traveler and above the Veil, because the Veil itself can't travel, the Veil itself can't move. So the Veil had to be moved in the lore. It had to be picked up by Savathun and stolen. It was picked up by the Witness Society initially when it was found. It wasn't just moving around in space, traveling and doing its own thing, or winnowing. So the Veil can't be the winnower, of course, because a winnower would have to be able to be mobile. But if that's the case, and you want to make sure that you're trying to still bend the Unveiling lore book into something that is possibly real, then that means that there's beings above the Traveler and the Veil that then created them, and these are just tools of the Gardener and the Winnower, for example. So that's a possibility. I'm going to go into that in the next video. See you guys on that video. That's going to be a pretty cool, pretty fun video as well, kind of going over that article that Bungie had put out that spoke about the ideas behind the way the Unveiling lore book works. And so I look forward to talking with you guys about that. And if you have anything you want to add to this story here with Maya and Chioma, or if my perspective sparked any new ideas or possibilities of where the story would go that would be cool to you guys, just leave that in the comments. That way I can kind of include that in future videos. And again, I'm still not 100% on making that video about the past Maya, Sundaresh, and Chioma, but as this story develops, it's almost like maybe an eventuality that I'll have to get to that point where I review the team that's stuck in the Vex network, where I review the actual Maya in the real world, and then the Lakshmi Maya, and kind of bring them all side by side and run them all kind of chronologically through what we know about them, so that we can kind of come to an understanding of where all those teams are, the Lakshmi and future Roar Cult, the current Maya and Chioma, and then the Maya and Chiomas that have possibly survived the Vex network and where they are. And so that's going to be another possible video coming up in the future. But thanks very much for the new subscribers. I know Destiny's slow right now, so it's a good time to kind of look into the lore and look into these things and try to prepare ourselves for the future events. Since there's not really a lot going on actually in-game, it's good to take a look at some of this out-of-game stuff and get that all lined up, and then maybe even get Bungie's attention so that they can adjust the story if possible to make it nice and cohesive and ready by the time it comes around, so that Destiny can survive after the final shape, because it's not looking good right now. It looks like a lot of people have come to that consensus of, we're going to play the final shape, we're going to get through the end of that campaign, and if it's not everything that the Destiny has ever always wanted to be, then I'm done. So hopefully that doesn't happen. Hopefully Destiny doesn't just die and then there's Marathon. They just let Destiny kind of rot and become this like side free-to-play game. But You know, we don't always get what we want in life, and Destiny has been around for quite a long time, so if Final Shape is it, and they just decide to let it, hang, then so be it, and it was a good ride, but I'll see you guys in the next one, and thanks very much for watching the end.